there's a risk because when you are vibe coding, things can go wrong like very, very quickly. You have to know how things work when programming. I have experienced that.
On this episode, I'm interviewing Josep Felip. You might have known him from being a speaker at BrightonSEO, and he was also the SEO Manager for LTG, and he's recently launched his latest tool called Amplfyr. Enjoy today's episode. Hey, Josep, thanks for joining me today. We could start by you explaining what it is you currently do and your job role and maybe a bit of your experience in SEO.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. I've worked as an SEO manager for the past 6 years at LTG first and then GP Strategies Corporation. And my background is 15 years working on the digital marketing space and since 2009 as SEO specialist and consultant. Yeah, let's keep it short.
Yeah, you're being modest as well because you've pretty much been known in the SEO space. So you've been doing your rounds, especially as a speaker at BrightonSEO. You're someone that has a voice about like technical expertise in SEO. How has your SEO work been in that company?
Basically managing a lot of brands with a very small team. So we had to be very careful with resources and we had to be smart about what we put out there and know the word, very strategy.
And how has it been doing SEO for a big corporation, which, like you said, has many different brands? So your workflow and your day-to-day, I would say it's sort of like overlooking all the different brands and sort of also standardizing SEO processes, right? Because you can't just sort of like put, as you said, like resources are scarce or like you don't have the manpower. So how do you sort of like do SEO at scale for this company?
Basically, when I started, the main, let's say, issue they had is that they had a lot of migrations coming up. So my first starting point was audits, and more audits. SEO audits. I spent, I don't know, probably nearly 2 months making website audits in a way that could be easily understood by all the stakeholders and specifically higher up. So I didn't want to go too technical, but just for the sake of them understanding. It worked very well because everyone up there could understand what was the problem and then taking the best course of action to address the issues. So after that, one of the things that I was focused doing the reporting at scale because, with so many brands, it's difficult to come up. You can't set a session for every brand. Otherwise, you could be like every month spending the whole month like just going on explaining reports and everything. I learned how to work with Looker Studio, connecting with GA Universal Analytics at that point, and then with Search Console. Then I automated all the reporting with specific parts for each team, like one part for the content team, another part for the marketers or the brand managers, so everyone could have a bit of everything.
Access to basically all the different reports. So you kind of also made it more autonomous, like for someone else, or more accessible for someone else.
Self-service basis, yeah.
Awesome.
And that was quite interesting because then suddenly they had like a overall view of what was going on with the website, and they could have the possibility to delve more into it.
What I'm really interested to know is like, how has AI actually then helped your reporting for SEO? Has it changed in the last year? Have you seen any significant changes where it's made preparing your reports much easier? Are you maybe utilizing SEO agents to sort of like fetch the data for you, prepare these reports? I'm interested to know what your new setup is in the age of AI.
Yeah. So on the reporting side, I didn't go too deep yet because I'm still learning about agentic on all the agentic thing. So I'm still learning on that, and I haven't done any substantial, let's say, progress on reporting with that. But I focus more on the content side because one of my priorities was making content perform better because all the companies out there produced a lot of content, specifically thought leadership content, and then more for all the stages, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. So that was my priority. I started working with AI, incorporated the AI in my workflow or even better, making the AI the core focus for content, helping on content creation, and learning about meaningful prompts and how better tweak them to get the desired output. So that led me to very interesting experiments that have led to other outcomes. In the reporting, what we have been doing is a very interesting thing, like, for example, for the migrations, or let's say pruning, when you're pruning your content, incorporating AI into your workflow has been great, because it reduces the time, for example, to select all the content that you want to probably, let's say, categorize into the content kit or review or prune. Yeah. So it reduces the time from probably several, I won't say probably several days, but a lot of hours to less than 1 hour. So, and
From manual to automated, basically.
exactly. So you could throw your Excel or your Google Sheet, and then you ask AI to categorize based on several parameters that you get from your Crow, for example, with Screaming Frog and getting the API to get the engagement, the conversions, all these kind of things, and then it's sorted out for you. And again, with the right prompt, you basically get it done in minutes.
Give an example for where you're letting the AI sort of like scrape all the articles that are currently live for one of the brands. And then you're saying that I want to know which article I should maybe update, and what are maybe some of the parameters that you input into any LLM tool that you're using to sort of help you with that organization.
Mhm. Yeah, at that time we were using ChatGPT, and basically this is a bit old school because we were using Screaming Frog. You can probably do this with NA10 or Make or whatever it's your preferred solution. But at that time
I'm so sorry, I'll stop you there and I'll just give a bit of context to whoever's listening. And Make.com are two of the tools out there that are basically taking over Zapier. So are you making use of them actually?
oh,
Or you're sticking to your old school?
I tried later, but my first, like, say, framework was old school, like getting the crawl with Screaming Frog, getting all this information with the API, with like engagement or conversions or page views and even impressions from Search Console or clicks. Then we put all this in ChatGPT, and then we tell ChatGPT, okay, with all these data sets, I want you to categorize each URL or each page based on X number of impressions. For example, above 1,000 impressions is a keep, or if they don't have impressions, but too many impressions, but they have clicks, this is important. Then look at the engagement as well, or if they have had conversions, because it might be from another channel. So with all of this, uh, ChatGPT made the decision. So then it was like quite easy. It took several tests, obviously, but it's basically telling this for this parameter, like higher than X number of impressions, or as I said, if there are clicks or the engagement time, whatever is important for you. Probably for content, it's more about page views, engagement, not so about conversions, unless it's like some kind of download the PDF or something like that. And there you go. It was quite easy. Again, now you can probably do it in a more efficient way with these tools, like you mentioned as well.
And have you been able to, maybe when you're tinkering about with it, have you been able to create any sort of workflow within, like, from pulling something from your database, putting it data, and having Make.com or anyone like create an output for you?
It was a very simple thing to test, and like sending an email, and that's it, which is great as well, because you can instruct the thing. I don't know how to call them, but
You're
yeah,
not
and
intimidated by the tech, because what I'm also trying to figure out is, like, there's lots of, because it's very new, everyone's claiming it's very easy, but how easy is it to sort of, like, rather than the time that you're spent sort of building that workflow, would you be better off kind of just using a traditional API, or you already have your setups, or you might actually want to buy a solution elsewhere? Where do you stand?
well, I think it's a very well invested time if you can learn how it works, this skill. Probably for some people, make the commies easier. From other people, probably a bit more technical, and A10 is better. You need to understand that everything, all these things work with APIs. You have to know what an API is and how it works, because everything now is working with APIs. But once you get the gist of it, it's really simple. It's quite visual. I mean, it's actually this thing. What I want to do is connected to that database. And from that database, everything is visual. Then you do that action, and with this outcome. So you have to connect, for example, your social media accounts, or your email or Gmail and YouTube account, whatever you want to extract the data from, and then the outcome. You can create nearly everything. But I just did some tests, but not something like I have incorporated yet in my workflow.
So still quite early stages, playing around, getting familiar.
Yeah.
I wanted to also ask, since you did work for a corporation, how has it been sort of getting approval to work with, like to bring these LLMs into a company? Did you face any restrictions in using these tools? Maybe you can give some advice for people working in corporations where they are like super excited to do, make use of all that's out on the market, but might face some roadblocks when it comes to getting approval.
Yeah. One of the things I have observed is big companies, corporations, are reluctant to make use of this because of the security and privacy things or settings or rules. So they act very slow. So they are like, when you have the approval, the technology has moved nearly 1 year forward. So we started on our own. We pay for our own tools, and we started tinkering with them. So I use on a daily basis. I use Claude. Started with ChatGPT, as probably everyone, in November 2023, and so since then I'm paying for my tools, and I shouldn't, but it's how it works. So at that point, only ChatGPT was allowed in the IGP strategies, and if you were doing work for the company with other LMS, you had to get the approval, and this is a very complicated process usually. So again, if you're very curious, as probably most of the people out there, go and test your things outside, and then try to incorporate it in your day to day once you have proved it works. But again, security and privacy, all that kind of thing, it really slows down. And I think I have the impression, I can't state that it is like this, but I feel like higher up in the companies, they don't fully understand how these things work. And sometimes time is the essence if you want to get really competitive. So you better give some freedom to experiment, at least for some of the teams. And I really do believe that, like, the SEO team or the digital marketing teams should be always upfront on these kind of things, because they are in contact.
So kind of like fast and break things until until approval is given. I mean, before security clearance is given. But what you're saying is, in order to like sort of invest in yourself so that you're not sort of like left behind, even though your corporation disallows these tools or hasn't given you the approval to use these tools, it does make sense to actually invest in yourself and work on things outside. I'm assuming you could also use the use cases when you're playing around with this without company data to then convince stakeholders.
Exactly.
Okay, look at what I can do. It'll make my job easier. It'll give you the returns. I'm being productive with this tool.
Exactly. And then, and there's a lot of things you can experiment with, even within the company, but on your side, not with, for example, if you have not access with your laptop, with your company laptop to ChatGPT or Claude, you can test it on your laptop. But I mean, the data we use is public. So there's no harm in testing with some of the data. At the end of the day, it's public.
Especially around content as well. When you're doing a sort of content creation or content audits, you are already working with public like data that has been, sort of out there.
Everything is out there.
Okay, cool. So the advice is basically experiment on your own and use that as an example and proof to then convince your company to move up, move along the
Yeah,
security clearance, because
yeah.
I'm going to lag behind. And wasting time. This is a personal investment. I think in this environment as well, with the boom of AI, that you have to stay ahead of the game when you're working in SEO or digital marketing, because you don't know what's going to happen to your job, or how things are going to change. Yeah.
Yeah,
Any other
definitely.
advice when it comes to, based on your experience of working in a corporation and being an SEO manager, do you have any other advice for people in that space, like who are maybe a bit unsure about where things are heading with the impact of SEO, I mean AI, in their industry and to their jobs?
Well, I think from an SEO manager perspective, I would like everyone at that level to have the freedom, but to give the freedom to their colleagues to experiment and to learn as much as they can. You need time to learn these things. You need time to tinker, to test, break things. So it's important to have this time to learn this thing and to get better, because at the end of the day, it gets back to the company if you're onto it. Everyone is talking about AI, but sometimes you can see some. I wouldn't say. I would say reluctancy to adopt some of the things. So, for example, for me, it has been very interesting to work with the content team, and it was a bit of a clash first because we had our framework that we presented to the content team to improve their performance, and we had a bit of let's say it was not very well received because, and I can understand, they look like this is they're getting out of the market if you implement that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, AI is just a tool, and it's better if you know how to use this tool, because it's not that the tool is going to replace you probably right now, but someone that knows how to use that tool is going to replace you. And for me, that's the key. It's not, you have to embrace that. Yeah, and you have to go with this growth mindset and try to learn as much as you can and how we can make it better for you. One of my selling points to that team was, okay, we have done that, and this is like it's giving you superpowers. It's going to reduce your time when you're writing. It's going to reduce the time when you're checking things or even for research. It's not always easy. It's not always easy.
Convincing, but you're convincing with data and also with just showing them that they can just cut their time in half and also save their jobs, because if
Yeah,
they're working alongside it instead of against it, which I think is very good advice. I would love to go into, I call this our rapid fire round. All right. What's your favorite LLM tool?
for day-to-day task, basically, it's very good at coding. Um, I'm a vibe coder. No harm in that. Please don't fire me.
Cool right now to be a vibe coder. So
So, and it's quite addictive if I have to be honest. But yeah, it's very good at coding. It's very good also at doing copywriting. Very good. Much, much better for me from my experience than ChatGPT. ChatGPT is faster for a lot of things, but for me, Claude is the tool to go.
nice. So do you use LLMs outside of work? I'm assuming you do.
Yeah, I do. I do. Basically, Claude, tested Notebook LLMS as well, which is fantastic to do summaries of really thick concepts. It helps me understand things. Basically,
So is
I
this for
track
books?
minus.
You use it? Sorry to interrupt, but do you use it for books when you're summarizing, like for online books or like research
Oh,
papers?
so yeah, when
Mhm.
I want to, yeah, exactly. When I want to understand something more, like I don't have time to read, let's say, a patent from Google. I put it on Notebook LLMS, and it helped me to distill the information and get important points. It's quite interesting good exercise to do. I have tried Manus as well, but for research, uh, yeah, it was quite good. The problem was not that extensive, but it's a good tool, MCP, so it does a lot of things quite good as well.
Next question. What's one SEO task that you never want to do manually again?
Manually again, probably keyword clustering. That's one task I don't like very much. It saves you a lot of time. You throw it on ChatGPT, you put your problem, how do you want to cluster, get me the file, boom, that's it.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Yeah.
Next question. Most overhyped SEO trend in the AI era?
Overhyped. So it's difficult, but I would say the overhype is like making you think that AI is taking over everything and everywhere. AI is a tool, so don't take it as a menace. Embrace it as a tool. Understand how it works, and uh, I would say don't fear. Also, it's nothing tied to my response. It's like you have to learn how to tame it, because if you throw out prompts without thinking too much, the outcome is not going to be good. So learn how to structure your prompts to get good outcomes.
Critical thinking is important.
Very, very important, and
And you can
clarity.
really hard.
Think a lot about prompting.
Next question. One AI feature or product you wish existed. Since you've been actually experimenting with a lot of different, AI tools. Like when you said Manos, it took me a second. I remember hearing it, but I was like, oh wait, it's a very neat, like not everyone talks about it. So I feel like you have a lot of knowledge in where you're tinkering about with many different tools and stuff. So what's actually missing from all that?
What's actually missing? I don't have extensive experience with all the things that it can be done with AI. I know a lot of people that are doing great things with, like the agents, for example. But for example, one of the things that I have to dive into it is about deep research with probably Gemini Pro is the best one. That's something I have to try for doing like really deep research. I know it's great, but I haven't tested yet. I have tested Gemini Pro. I did some gems, and the result was not what I expected. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say right now, but there's a lot of tools that have incorporated AI, like Screaming Frog. The new possibilities you can have with them, they are really, really, really amazing. I don't know. Any other thing?
You're still testing. You're still testing. And you feel like there are actually a lot of options out there.
Yeah, there are a lot of options, and
Not a question of what.
you have to figure out which one is the best one for you, but certainly not something that could do like everything automatically. I don't want that. I want to have some control about what I'm doing.
And so that means you want options, I'm assuming, so to
Yeah.
try and figure out. Nice.
Yeah.
You're not buyers, you don't want a all-in-one.
I'm not very fan of all-in-one solutions. Not really, because it's like jack of all trades, Yeah, you can do everything, but that's
Next
why.
question. Most underrated AI use case in SEO right now?
Most underrated. I mean, there's a lot of paths to go here. Underrated. I would say creating copy. It's a bit not underrated, but I wouldn't say overlooked, but probably is not focusing on the right way, because everyone is using AI to create copy, and everyone is focusing on prompts and prompts and prompts. But unless you create like a perfect prompt, even though you can't control all the variables, you need to create a good content, right? So for me, it's about, okay, I wouldn't say underrated, but it's content creation, or other thing that I've tested, for example, is encoding. It's amazing what you can do. Everyone on the SEO space is focusing on doing reports, which is great, or research, absolutely, and then keyword research or topic research. But I've used it, for example, to create a plugin with, I don't know how to code PHP, for example, and I created a plugin for WordPress. And that ties to to your previous question, is about options. If you are able to connect dots, you can do anything you can imagine, So underrated, the possibility to create your own plugins, for example, on WordPress. This is amazing. And it took me, I don't know, 8 hours, and it's too much probably, and it worked. I mean, I needed some testing, obviously, but it was, and you don't even need like, GitHub thing or whatever. Just Claude, your Claude Pro can do the coding for you, and that's how I created one plugin for WordPress. Then on ChatGPT, I created 8 ChatGPTs for the company. One of them was about specifically to create schema markup, entities schema markup. So you can, from your text, it can create a very specific schema markup that highlights the entities and gives more context to the AI platforms, for example. So it's all about connecting the dots. Any SEO out there has a lot of knowledge, knows a lot of things. It's just a question of connecting the dots.
That's really cool. But not a lot, I feel, of SEOs are probably out there making 8 different, GPTs, or even spending 8 hours to create a plugin. So it's really cool that you found a way to sort of like experiment without being overwhelmed. And then you can actually successfully, from what you were saying, apply it back into your work. That's really cool. About this, is this plugin then the tool that you're working on?
No. This was an experiment. So the tool I'm working on, which probably will be released by
the time this is
by the time this is out, it's a, let's say, a content optimization tool. I don't want to say it's a content optimization tool only, because it's more than that. So it's a tool that is going to give you the possibility to get your existing content work better or get more visibility on AI platforms and also AI overview. So if I may explain very quickly what it is.
Of course, go for it.
Yeah, so it's all about connecting the dots. So I told you I created eight ChatGPTs for the company. In fact, the ChatGPTs were about creating content for each of the brand with their own voice and with their own data. This gave me a framework to work with, right? However, this didn't work too well because sometimes, and you know that, ChatGPT hallucinates. Claude does hallucinate as well. Any LLMS hallucinates a bit. So we started to get some issues with the data. And then I thought, how do I get full control of the input and the output? There's only one way for me in my head. It's I have to create a tool. So I created that tool where you can input your content. It creates your brand voice from the content you input. So it creates your voice fingerprint. So you can have an outcome like, wow, you can say this sounds like my brand. No fake thing, not like any other tool, like say, oh no, I want conversational, or I want it more corporate. This is not going to happen.
Level to it, because just adding those tone of voice parameters in, let's say, ChatGPT still doesn't personalize it to
exactly
brand. Is it like what you've created? It's the model is basically learning in the past input of content and then generating new content that's in line with that tone of voice.
Exactly. So
this is, if I understand correctly, maybe one step shorter of an agentic AI, because you it's not connected to a database. You still have to sort of input your data, correct? Right? It's not going.
Exactly. At the moment, you have to input your data. You have, I don't know, 10 case studies. You throw them. They are vectorized. They are stored. Only the data, not the actual document. And then we retrieve the data points we need for the specific content you are working on at that point. Cool. And then it's a very cool tool. Then the other thing that the tool does is when you input your content, it's either a new content you want to publish or you want to refresh content. You put it there, we analyze it, and one of the good things that it gives you is that it tells you, okay, this content is a blog post or a landing page. This is the target audience this blog post is intended to reach, and this is the core problem you are trying to address. And then it gives you an analysis of this content you want to refresh or to improve, how it performs from an information gain perspective. There are a lot of new concepts that content writers, copywriters, and SEOs have to learn, and I encourage them to learn. It's all about the information game theory, information foraging. I'm not a specialist on that. There are a lot more. There are other people they know more about this than me. And I would like to thank, for example, Andy Holland here. I learned so much about this information theory from him. So
is that a way of structuring content or creating content?
Analyzing. Right now is analyzing content from the information game perspective. So the tool analyzes your content and gives you some metrics. Okay, how good is your content right now for concept density, for semantic relationships, or whatever? right?
Sorry to interrupt because I thought it would be relevant, but do you also have like then an analyzing point for how it would rank in GEO, generative, engine
Yeah.
optimization? Do you also have a marker for that? 'Cause that's something that's really trending right now, and I'll be
Yeah.
curious to know if your tool incorporates
Yeah,
that.
that's a very, very good question, and I'm going to that. So the analysis gives you all these kind of things, then it extracts the most relevant entities within that content, because you can have a lot of entities, but it extracts only the most relevant. And then it gives you also the score, like an AI visibility score based on those data and how well is projected to perform on AI, right? And then it gives you some recommendations. And also the last part of an analysis is it gives you 4 target audiences and the key needs for your target audiences. So
Essentially, all in one.
one,
All in one. As
all in
much as
one,
you
yeah,
said it's with all in one, it might be an overkill. This is truly all in one in execution.
is very specific because it's focused on making your existing content better.
Mhm.
Like one of the experiments we did, we got a piece of content was sitting average position in Google Search Console 70. It was like 4 years old. We put the right things, the right signals. We prejudged it a bit. It went in 2 weeks. It went to average position 49, and it went from 50 impressions a month to more than 300. And in 2 weeks' time, it got even 2 clicks, which it was nearly the same amount of clicks it got in 1 year. So it's amazing because you could be sitting in a gold mine with your old content just
Mhm.
by refreshing the content. There's no need to churn out new content just for the sake of creating new content. Make the existing one better.
And
And
this I think would be especially useful. It's in line with your experience of having worked for bigger companies that are like sitting on so much content
exactly.
and not knowing what to do. So this would be more like an enterprise. It really helps for enterprises, I feel, especially, right? Or even for agencies that work with a lot of different companies and you don't always have to create something new. You want to see what you can work with. That's very good.
Exactly. Yeah,
Nice.
because most of the content out there can be refreshed because probably, and I think it's pretty much what you can see in nearly every B2B or enterprise company, 80% of your traffic in, sorry, 80% of your traffic in the best case scenario comes from 20% of your pages. From those 20% of pages, probably 2 or 3 are blog posts in the best case scenario. Good traffic only from 3 or 4 blog posts. So why don't you improve it and
Quality over
you get
quantity.
more visibility?
Yeah.
Quality over quantity. That's the premise. Yeah.
Nice. And very quickly, I just want to touch on, so when it comes to ranking factors on these generative AI, GEO, right? Everyone's talking about GEO or the new SEO. It'll be interesting to get your take on it. There's so many terms that people are throwing around. I would like to ask, what are your top tips for optimizing for GEO? If you have another term that you use to call it, and if you have any opinions around this this trending term or trending topic.
Really, it's a trending topic. What it has worked in my experience is either it's refreshing or creating new content. It's taking into account first your audience. I would start there first. So what are the key needs really? No, not talking about a buyer persona, but about your target audience. Who is this sector that you want to talk to, and what are the key needs? And then be very specific. Always get rid of the fluff. So concept density is a good concept to have in mind. Entropy is another one that probably content writers and SEOs out there producing content have to have in mind. And the other one would be information gain rate. It could be seen right now like unrelated, but this is very, 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 very useful to know. Information gain.
Yeah, some examples on that too.
Some example, information gain rate is like the speed of at what pace is your user gaining that information. If you can say you can explain one concept in 3 words, don't waste, I don't know, one long sentence with 20 words. Yeah. Use icons or use, any other things like go straight forward to the mind of your reader and get rid of the fluff. Go straight to the main point. In English, they say don't bury the lead, right? In the journalism. So state the most important thing. You can put even a TLDR on top, or a table of contents always helps, but TLDR always helps even better. Go straight to the point right now in the first quarter of your content. Cut the fluff. Go straight to the thing, to the topic. Know your audience, and this is something that we have been talking about for a long time. Don't make long paragraphs. Keep to 4 or 5 lines, easy to read, keep a good pace. Don't overcomplicate things. Keep out the jargon, more conversational if you want to, and then relate all the concepts. Study about entities. I know keywords are important, but right now is not the more important things. They can help you with search engine, and they can help you for if you want to get a gist of what is the most searched term, or how would I, focus this or that. Always good, but focus more on entities than on keywords. And then all the other things, as usual, clear page title related to what is gonna the page have. Good structure, H1, H2, H3, even bullet points always help. And then talking about structure, schema markup. Very good schema markup always help. Use the about element, mentions elements, and always refer them to as much as you can to the Wikipedia link, for example, is a very good source. Yeah, is a very good. So there's an element called same as. So if you say in the schema markup, you say about, you say this page is about, then you can put think, or I don't know, a term talking about, for example, about learning. So you have a description, and then you refer this same as, and then you put the wiki link to the learning page on Wikipedia. So suddenly you're telling the AI bot, or even Google AI, okay, this is what the page is about. So you don't get confused, and you really know what I'm talking about. I'm referring to Wikipedia, so there's no confusion about that. And it's like grounding.
So it's also sort of making it more informational, right? Because this kind of contents are being informational content is what's being picked up on by the AI tools, at least for example, for what's now like on Google, right? The summarization that's there in order for your article, for your company to rank. You sort of also want to maybe, like from what you're saying, if I understand correctly, be related to Wikipedia because of how information is structured in that way.
It's just like giving a good reference about that topic you are talking about. I'm talking about, or for example, I'm talking about
credibility to the content, basically. I see. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, but it's also not something I would have thought about. So this is
yeah. It works really, really well. It works really well because AI bots or the crawlers, when they come to your site, they crawl your site. They only see HTML, and they can see the JSON. This is JSON file, for example, but they can't see if your website is a JavaScript render on client side. They are not going to pick up anything on your site. So again, you keep it all HTML if you want to appear on AI platforms, and then you have to get the schema markup. It's like the fast way to tell them this is about this, and this.
Nice, and they will avoid you with that. Because I recently saw on LinkedIn, I think one of the SEO influencers in that space, Alida Solis, was saying how she did an experiment where to find out what LLMs are, what ChatGPT is actually using to sort of bring its content in, and the fact that, SEO, the whole claim that SEO is dead, but actually these LLMs are still utilizing, are scripting, are getting data from Google. And so SEO is, if anything, is still very, very important.
Yeah. So one thing.
Sorry, go for it.
Sorry to cut you, because I think we saw the same post. So one thing that now ChatGPT does is getting information from Google, and I don't know most, but some of the times it's from the feature snippet. And the thing we were talking about feature snippets like some years ago is be concise, cut the fluff, go straight to the point, and do it in a very structured way. Then you get the feature snippets most of the cases. This is exactly the same recommendations we are giving. to get visibility on AI platforms.
So SEO is dead. It's just being repurposed. So if anything, I feel
exactly.
probably a lot of scaremongering has been happening around, and you can, from your advice based on what you're doing in the field, like out there actually experimenting, still working, you're sticking to the basics, like schema, having a clear schema markup, writing clear informational content, not keyword stuffing, focusing on, I really like the part you talked about, like focusing on entities. So like these concepts, because keyword research is probably changing, like ranking for keywords. Say that place, I would assume, is becoming more muddled. But so focusing on like making human-centric content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. You can make human-centric content even with AI because AI is just part of your creation process. For example, in the app we are working on, is more the human is the one that engineers the content right now. It's about content engineering right now. It's good to have, and nobody's taking this away for you, to have a craft as a copywriter or as a writer. This is, for me, is one of the best skills you can have, copywriting. I love. But right now you have to up your game. So having a tool like that helps you engineering your content is even much better because it's getting your craft with the knowledge you need or the signals you need to get in front of the competition for competing for visibility on AI platform.
I wouldn't be surprised if people start calling themselves copywriters, go through a transformation, and are now known as content engineers. Like you heard it here first. New AI job role, a new job.
Why not? Yeah, I actually see it like that.
It's interesting.
At some point, when I was working in an agency, they called me a search engineer, which I was wow. I like this title.
It makes sense because you're also engineering. You're doing a lot of engineering when you're like working across different databases, across different tools, pulling things together, being able to be comfortable with APIs, working, testing out, vibe coding as well. So you are an engineer.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no. You say vibe coding, I triggered.
Sorry.
I just say vibe coding, my mind triggered.
It's a good thing. I feel like it's a very cool thing now. And I love that as a word for it. It's being in flow and not being, because there's lots of fear on the side of AI. And I think it's with people, assuming their jobs are being taken. But then there's also this other side of people that are sort of riding the wave and like finding ways to sort of work alongside it. Because as you said, it's not like your job is immediately, from what you're saying in the SEO space, that your job's not immediately going to be replaced by an agentic AI, an SEO agent, but someone working alongside an SEO agent might be coming for your job. Yeah. I have one last question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, the same happens with the coders. There's a lot of fear in the coding space. I can understand why. I've created an app with minimal requirements of coding. I had the basics. So, but you can create an app without knowing nothing. Obviously, there's a risk because when you are vibe coding, things can go south like very, very quickly. So for me, you have to know what you're doing as well. As with any other tool, you have to know a bit of how things work when programming. Otherwise, I have experienced that. Otherwise, things can go wrong, like really wrong. But yeah.
Josep, my last question was just for you to describe the future of SEO in one word.
In one word, it's difficult in one word. I would say the first one that came to my mind was exciting, but it falls very, very, very short.
No, but that's fine. Just what your first
that was my
we'll
first
go with
one.
exciting. Awesome. Thank you so much, Josep, for your time. Very quickly, maybe you could let the people know where they can stay in touch with you, reach out to you, how they can kind of stay informed with the exciting tool that you're going to launch.
Which the name for it is Amplfyr.
Amplfyr.
And you can go to the amplfyr.app site and get a free trial there, or you can send me an email to jm@amplfyr.app, and or you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Josep. I'll put all of it down for sure. Like all the links will be below so that people can find you. Thank you so much for being on. This was like a power-packed episode with like a lot of gems from like content writing, to how to work alongside LLMs, and also how to stay true to some like technical SEO practices that have that have been around for a long time and still work. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure.